It is a New York State tax, basically a progressive sales tax. It amounts to about 0.1% of all stock trades on the New York stock exchanges, mainly the NASDAQ and the NYSE. The tax has actually been in effect since 1905, when it was introduced by a Republican governor to balance the budget. Today, New York State has, depending on how you're counting, between a 15 and $20 billion budget projected deficit. So, as an alternative to laying off workers and, teachers, many people have proposed that we stop rebating this tax to Wall Street. The tax was successfully collected for 77 years, from 1905 until 1982, when, thanks to Governor Carey, the state started rebating the tax to Wall Street investors. And since then, we've given back about $345 billion to Wall Street investors. 80% of the stocks, as you know, are owned by the top 10% of Americans, and the top, the 1% owns about half of the stocks. So we're talking really about a tax that would be levied very much on the upper income groups and the wealthiest people in the country. And in fact, most of it would be probably a lot of it would be paid by people who are outside the state of New York. There have, over the last 2 decades, been a number of efforts at national levels to have such financial transactions taxes imposed at a national level in the United States, so-called Robin Hood tax movement around the financial crisis, 2009. Also in the EU, there's quite a few countries that have adopted financial transactions taxes, and there's a measure movement right now with every country in the world basically facing fiscal problems to reinstate these financial transactions taxes globally. But I think New York will be deciding very shortly, in the next 6 weeks or so. They have to come up with a new budget. And right now, before the legislature, there are 2 bills in the Senate and the House that have accumulated more than 60 sponsors. So there's a real live possibility. Wall Street is actually scared to death, and as usual, they're threatening to leave. Talking about the terrible impact this tax would have on them. Most of those arguments have been debunked many times, and they were just as false in 1905 as they are today. But there is a real battle shaping up that we should all be aware of in the New York State Assembly right now.
Let me ask you a couple of particular questions. Is it reasonable to think of this as the equivalent, more or less, of a sales tax? In other words, when you buy a piece of clothing, when you buy an appliance, you pay the price in the store plus a sales tax, which funds the government. And the question would be to do the same thing when you buy a financial instrument. You would have a sales tax. The difference is where the sales tax is 6, 7, 8% in New York State, for example. This one is a very, very small fraction of that.
Many residents of New York City pay an 8.8% sales tax, and this is indeed analogous to that, only it's a 0.1% tax. So last year on the NASDAQ exchange, the average transaction was about $8,400. And this tax, which is now being rebated, is at the gram level of 1 nickel per $100 of stock. So that translates into $8.80 for one of those average trades, or about 0.1%.